lot to cover with the panel, with all the different panels and what they want to say for everybody. And just to let you know, with the panel's permission, we are taping tonight. We're going to be taping tonight so that people at home will be able to hear it as well. And if you want to rehear anything or listen to it, it will be available online. So Warren County's been really good about trying to tape the sessions this year. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Just a reminder, next month is, for May, we're going to do a workshop. The counties have been very kind to give us binders, and what we're going to do is have available the presentations that are on hard copy. So you can put them in the binder so you'll have them. We'll have, whatever business cards you want to put in, you'll be able to put in, and the different presentations. It's just a way of organizing. We'll also have some other ideas for organizing as well. All the paperwork that's involved with transition and eligibility and all the agencies you find you're under a mountain of paperwork, and we'll just be giving some suggestions how to organize it. And like I said, we'll have the binders available. I will probably put out that I asked that you will be able to RSVP so I know about how many binders to have ready. So, and then that will be the end. Next month will be the last one before we'll meet again then in the fall. So again, thank you for coming. I didn't introduce myself. I always forget to do that. My name is Patty. I'm the Parent Resource Trainer for the Montgomery, Greene, and Warren counties. We also have a Facebook link out there. I have the paperwork if you need that link, but I usually send it out through the email. So if you signed in and left your email, or if I have your email, you're probably already getting some of the links and some of the information. But if you don't have your email back there, please sign in, make sure your email's available, and I'll send all the information out to you as well. So, all right, so without further hesitation, we're going to go ahead and get started. We have the panelists. We're going to start with Mark and Heidi James. They're going to be speaking about their journey through transition and everything, and we'll go ahead and let them get started. And if you have any questions or anything comes up, this is open. Feel free to raise your hand, ask them questions. If anything that they're saying, you're saying, hey, I got a question about that, or how did you do this, feel free to ask them as they go through, okay? Thank you. Go ahead.
It's kind of funny because we moved here when Ellen turned 16. So part of our transition time started in Centerville in the Montgomery County area. So when we got here, she had to do the whole OEDI. And so I was brand new to that. I'm like, what does that mean? What kind of test is that? And so, through some of that part of it and understanding that when they are 14, the school says you need to get them in some kind of career path. And we've said for a long time, the two of us, find out what your kid is the most passionate about. Because once you find their passion, you might be able to find something in that venue that they can do as a part of being employed later on. Now our daughter loves horses. So we're in a little bit of trouble because every horse she sees she wants to buy. And she wants one that costs $60,000. I told her good luck, get a job. So having gone there, when you go into the whole OEDI process, always answer no. Just say no. Can they shower by themselves? Even if they can get in and out of the shower by themselves and wash their bodies, just say no. You're not exactly like, because even now, she'll be 19 this upcoming summer. We have to say, go take your shower and use soap. There's soap in the shower. It's for your body. And for the most part, she can do everything. She just needs those verbal prompts. Brush your teeth, those kind of things. Still, now. And so that's been...
I think even starting back, I kind of want to go back to when she was 3. And it was a time when she was throwing tantrums and doing all sorts of the typical, she's autistic, So she was doing the typical hand flapping, those sorts of things when she was 3. And through getting into early intervention in Montgomery County and through some other things that we went through, that has really helped her grow and become the person that she really is at this point. Had it not been for a lot of the interventions and a lot of the county programs, I don't think she would be where she is now, where she's pretty high functioning. Yes, she has a lot of splintered skills. She's good in some areas and she's not so good in other areas. But, you know, had that not been the case, I don't think she would have come as far as she had. She would still be, you know, doing the rocking or doing the hand flapping or whatever at this point. But, you know, she's really come a long way through, you know, from being 3 to now being 18. You know, currently she's has a job. She's working at McDonald's part-time. So, you know, that's kind of one of our successes. I will say that in order to do that, we've kind of had a bit of a challenge from a transportation perspective, though, because we both work full-time, and you know they don't provide the transportation. So we've been trying to go through the whole driving situation. We did try that. We went through capabilities. And that just didn't seem to work for us. And basically the rule was that if after your 4th time, if you've gone through the driving and you flunk after the 4th time, you have to wait 6 months. So we are now in that.
6 months yet?
We are in that process of waiting for the 6 months. It will be next month will be the 6th month. So we are actually going to be trying again. We're going to try and go through a different vendor this time. And I think part of the issue for us was that she was being taught by several different people, and so she was getting confused as to what made sense and what didn't, you know, what was going to be consistent for her. So there wasn't enough consistency. So we're going to be in that process trying to go through to get her to drive so that she can be productive.
Is Capabilities a company that helps?
They actually are one of the vendors that the board here uses. They're out of St. Mary's, and they specifically work with folks with disabilities. Now, we called several different places. We called D&D out of Dayton, and we called here at Vickers, and they both have
Vickers.
I'm sorry. And they both have rehab drivers. So when you call, if you want that, you have to specifically request that they use a rehab driver. Because they'll give them the same person each time. She can drive fine. In fact, I was just saying to somebody, she drove me to and from Xenia, which is the other part of our story, for months and no problems. She just can't do the maneuverability. And that's where she was struggling the most, is that whole cone thing, and it's a spatial thing. But, you know, as part of our story, Warren County Career Center quit doing their equine science program, and that's what she wanted to do. So we have her going to Greene County Career Center to go to school every day. So mom drives her there, and mom goes to pick her up every day, which, you know, I don't think would be solved even, you know, if they had better transportation here in Warren County, because they won't go out of county. So we're just doing what we need to do, because again, this is her passion. You know, if your kid likes trains, Entertainment Junction, you know, they can work there. Why not? You know, I mean, it might not be a glamorous job, but you're surrounded by trains. You know, and I think that, I mean, obviously there's some passions that you can't exactly fulfill, but I think our biggest thing that we like to advise people, and is don't let them take your wonderful round peg and stick them in a square hole, because they're only going to get that opportunity. And now with all these new nuances in policy and stuff, they want them out in the public, and they want them working in some sort of job, which, you know, I want her to work. I want her to be a productive part of the rest of the world. And it's my hope that she can do that. She wants to train horses. I'm a little afraid of that, but you know, I think if she puts her mind to it, and he just told me she had 3 tests recently in her equine science program, scored 100 on every single one of them. So she has the knowledge. I just think that there's times she, again, the splintered skill, she could take that knowledge from the piece of paper and apply it, because distraction's one of her big downfalls, being distracted, being off task, so. But those are some of the transition part of it is just stick to your guns. You know, if you know your kid, stick to what your kid, you know your kid's good at, and let that kind of be your guide, so that when they go out into the world, they are successful.
Are you taking steps toward independent living with her?
We are starting that. Right now, we just got approved for the level 1.
We have a level 1 waiver that we just got approved for. We're actually waiting for Job and Family Service to actually do the other portions, so we actually have the waiver at this point. We also have her actually on a waiting list at a place in Cincinnati called LAD, that's living arrangements for the developmentally disabled. They have a couple of apartment buildings where they actually have staff that is in the apartment building, and they can get whatever help they need, whether it be if they need 10 hours a week, if they need 40 hours a week, or whatever, and can use those waiver services or private pay. So she is on that list. They told us probably about a 6 to 7 year wait, however. So if you're thinking about that, certainly get on the list. That would be one of my recommendations, you know, if you're, especially for the waiver in for housing, and kind of be thinking a little bit ahead, because my advice would be it's never too early to start planning for transition, even if they're 13 or 14. Start now and getting them thinking, whether it be they can volunteer somewhere for a passion or something that they like doing, but get them involved early on in the process, because as you get further along, it's more difficult to change course. You know, when you get to your senior year, and that's kind of where she is right now, it's hard to be able to change whatever course you're on if you're stuck in a certain area.
The other thing is that this LAD program actually can start on a campus where they have 8 apartments, and they have more than 4 individuals who kind of work with them on their IADLs, laundry, dishes, shopping, cleaning, even like money management. They have staff members there, and they can start in a quad, kind of. There's 8 rooms there, and they can start there. It's their own apartment, and they're responsible. I think they said they rotate meals. They are responsible for making sure the groceries are purchased, that the meal is planned, that it is nutritional, and that it is served at meal time, whatever that meal time is. So it's not a group home where somebody is serving them. They're actually responsible for part of that. And they have a staff that kind of works with them step by step. And we had gone down probably when she was 16 and kind of toured, and we were very impressed by the process, because it's not a group home. It is actually a whole program, and if they can do successfully in the 8 unit, they can graduate up to the next step to one of the independent. Now, they may still have to wait, you know, a prescribed period of time, because the apartments have to become available. The not so wonderful thing is that one is in the Oakley area of Cincinnati, and the other one is
I'm trying to think where.
Is it Hamilton County sponsored? Or?
Yeah, it's Hamilton County.
Yeah.
So, you know, again, that's kind of changing services and making sure you've got some coordination and those kind of things. And that does make it a little more difficult. I do home health. I'm a certified occupational therapy assistant, and I see a lot of my, and talk to a lot of people who have children who are 50 and 55 years old, and they're still living at home, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want for your child. But when you're 75 and your kid's 55 and they're physically not capable of taking care of themselves, you're not physically capable of taking care of them either. So you kind of want to be prepared for what happens after you're not going to be there, you know? And I think that's kind of what we've tried to prepare, because we have, you know, family here, you know, and the family that we do have, I don't want her back up in the Akron area where she doesn't know anybody.
Are you Warren County or are you?
We are Warren
We are
County.
here in Warren County, yes,
We are here.
yes.
How did you find out about that?
I had actually had a home health patient who told me about it. She worked down there and told me about the entire program. And before we made any, you know, plans, we just thought, well, we'll go down and see, because I'm thinking, that, to me, with her talking to me about it, I thought, this sounds an awful lot like a group home, you know, and that's, in fact, she has emphatically
She
told
will
us.
tell you, I don't want to live in a group home. Yeah, she will tell you that. So again, a lot of it is what their wishes are, and, you know, with the waiver, you can, as long as you stay within Ohio, you're fine as far as the housing situation goes. So you don't have to be stuck with here in Warren County. You know, you can go to
But
neighboring counties.
it is a lot of footwork. You know, our next transition after she graduates from the Greene County program is she wants to go to Ohio University and do their equine science program. And we've already gone down to Lawrence County and talked to the Board of DD down there so we can kind of coordinate things, and because there's no housing. There's no dorms. It's not in Miami. It's actually in a little town called Ironton, and there's no dorms. I mean, so, you know, I said to him, oh, she can live in an apartment. I said, yeah, if we want to go down and rescue the apartment building from a fire.
Well, and the nice thing that we happened to find out about that was that they do actually have a house. I believe she said there are 8 individuals that live there, and they will actually do their meals for them. You know, they basically do a monthly fee. It covers their meals, it covers their rent, it covers all their utilities, it covers everything for them.
They have to be
So-
responsible for their own laundry.
They have to be, yeah, but, you know, so there is an option that we have to have her do that, and maybe she can at some point possibly transition to something else, but we can, you know, that's someplace we can start. But yeah, she has 1 more year in the equine science program that she's in this upcoming year, and then she is gonna graduate, and that's what she hopes to do. So we're gonna try and do our best to kind of guide her along in that and see where she ends up. So that's kind of our next transition.
Did you want to mention that book?
Oh, yeah. One of the seminars that I went to, and one of the other panelists here also went to, it's called Charting the Life Course. And I thought it was really interesting because it's something that can apply to everybody, not just somebody with disabilities. But what it basically does is it goes through all the different stages. It goes from infant all the way up to retirement. And they have different areas that they go through. For example, they have like daily life and employment. And they have community living, safety and security, healthy living, social and spirituality, and citizenship. And what they do is they kind of ask a lot of questions, but the overarching question is, you know, what for your child, how would you describe a good life for your child? What would that look like? Can they describe that for you, or can you describe that? And that's what you're working towards. You're working towards a future for them and to give them life experiences. And that's what will help them, you know, on their track as they go through life. But like I said, it's also something that can apply to you. You can do the same thing. I mean, they have questions in here for retirement or living options. You know, what will I do when I get older? How am I gonna do, transportation, or am I gonna live in a senior center, or those types of examples. So it really does apply to everybody, but they kind of tailored it to someone with a disability and the different areas of their life and what questions that you need to be asking, and thinking a little bit ahead in the future. Think of the next stage depending on what stage you're actually at. So
what he didn't mention, so you can get that book at their website, and it's so here in Ohio we've got the UCEDD that's down University Cincinnati and Children's Hospital. So this is kind of Missouri's version of it, but Mo Family to Family. So it's MO, the word family, TO family.org. MoFamilyToFamily.org. And so they have a lot of resources up on their website.
You can go to lifecoursestools.com also, lifecoursestools.com.
So, and what, part of it was kind of coming up with a plan, and sometimes with that, they said it's sometimes harder to picture all the stuff that you really do want for your child, because it's hard to put down stuff that you don't know. You don't know if it's out there, but it also has a little box of what you don't want, and sometimes it's easier to start from what you don't want to build what you do want.
And an example, I don't want my kid to live in a group home, just like for her.
Yeah.
That would be an example of what I don't want, or I don't want her to, go down whatever path.
So it was a pretty good resource.
Yeah.
Actually, what's happening with that is that I guess so Missouri started this, and they've branched out with 9 other states. So it's going to be a 10-state consortium, and Ohio is one of them, where they're kind of adopting this toolkit, I would say, this toolkit on future planning for your child, whether they're in preschool or high school or transition beyond, whatever. So I was very impressed with all the resources they had out there. So I would encourage you guys to access that website, just kind of poke around and see
And
what's
I
there.
believe they're going to have they talked about having another session, and we will see if we know when the session is. We can let Patty know, and
I just got an email about it at work, I don't know why.
we'll send that out.
But yeah, it was that same exact thing. So I think there's something coming up.
There is.
A conference or something.
So I think there's something in May, but when I asked about it, it wasn't really for rolling the whole program out. I think they're going to kind of be doing that in the fall, but the resources are all out on that MissouriFamilyToFamily.org website. So you don't have to wait for them to get the stuff and look at it, but they kind of walked you through it all. But then at least you could be familiar with it when they start having sessions on it.
Question, Martha Hayes, when you did capabilities, one of the things back to the driving, did you get any funding or any support with going through that?
We actually did get funding through the board, yes. So that was the one good
We
thing.
used our family dollars.
Yeah, we use family resource dollars in order to do that.
Now, when we said, because we feel like she needs to go through the whole driving course again here, it was offered for the county to pay again, and we just said, we'll cover it. We feel like at this point, the responsibility needs to be on her, and she needs to understand, that stuff has a cost. And so, some of the things that and she is a little higher functioning, we're trying to teach her natural consequences to stuff without letting her fall on her face. And that's just something we feel very strongly. I'm not gonna let her go out there and, do something dangerous, obviously, but, I'm also not gonna rescue her from making choices, because again, we've talked about her going to OU. I'm gonna be 2.5 hours away. What am I gonna control from 2.5 hours away? I'm not gonna control anything. She's gonna have to make decisions, and she's gonna have to learn to problem solve. And if I'm always doing it for her, the one thing that we've talked consistently about, and that we've heard from the board and from a lot of other parents and a lot of other professionals, is teach your child the best advocacy skills that you can teach them. Because even at OU, we are not her guardians. we did not take guardianship. So when she is down there, she is her own individual. Well, we were at the Office of Disabilities at the campus, and she said, you can call me up and say, you know, blah, blah, blah about Ellen James, and all I can say is, yes, I know her. That is all I am allowed to say. I can't tell you about her grades, I can't tell you what accommodation she has. I am not allowed to speak with you, even if you are her parent.
Unless she gives us permission.
Unless
She
she
has,
gives you
there's
permission.
a document she can sign that she can give us permission to do all of that.
So, you know, but we can't go down to the disability office with her and say, well, you know, out in the barn, it's too noisy, she needs headphones or earplugs, or, you know, she needs the text read to her, or she needs a math tutor. She has to be able to say, I'm struggling and I need help. And we're working really hard on that skill with her. I think that's the biggest takeaway that I can give anybody is teach your child some sort of advocacy skill, even if it's just the word stop. You know, stop, I don't like that, or, you know, whatever.
You know, for you, maybe when you get that level 1 waiver, that could be somebody's, you could find a provider for out there and, you know, just check in with her like a few hours a week and
Yep,
help guide her on the advocacy.
yep,
Right?
Absolutely.
we're done.
Anything else? Okay.
Does anybody have any more questions for Mark and Heidi? James? A lot of good information. I think we all were going through some of that in that transition. There's a lot of good. So if you give me some of the links, I'll be glad to share these links, you know, that you have, you know, presented about, whether it be the LAD or the, you know, the chart of your life. You
Absolutely.
know, I'll try to get the links and share them in an email as well. So, the next speaker will be Connie Hutzel, and she is going to speak on assisted technology for the disability spectrum of your children.
So I guess what I would, so I'm Connie Hutzel. I have a 19-year-old son with Down syndrome who is in the middle of all this transition process, and I guess some of you I know out there, and so I don't really even know all the ages of all the kids, but how many of you are out here as caregivers or parents? How many are parents? Pretty much all of you. Okay, and how many have their kids, how many kids are under 16? How many, okay, good, because you're starting early. That's what you need to do, is be here and listen to all this stuff. So all of you, I would say your kids are probably 16 to 22. Are they still in school? Okay. All right, so is Carson, and we're kind of in the middle of all this. And one of my visions from the get-go, long ago with his IEP, was, you know, you always have to write out that vision statement, and was for him to live independently by his mid-20s or so, have a job of his choice and of his liking and where he's valued, and be able to access a post-secondary educational opportunity of his choice again. You know, not everything is a good fit for him. Some things are, some things aren't. But the good thing is that there's more and more opportunities available for our kids now that are, you know, in a post-secondary thing. But like for Carson, you know, if I sent him down to UC, it's still $25,000 a year, and I just don't know. In my mind, I just don't think it's a good enough. I don't think he would have any. Well, it would be different, but enough of an outcome to spend $100,000 when he could go through the transitional living classroom and go through Project Search and things like that. I think that would be, for him, an appropriate path. So I guess getting back to the technology that Patty was talking about, we have been leaving Carson at home for quite a while. So he has a brother who's 14 months older who is in college now, but would come home and play Xbox and kind of like almost be not there. He was there, but not there, you know. So Carson would come home from school and get in on his own, and at least I knew somebody was in the house because my husband and I both work, and so I knew somebody was at least in the house if Carson had issues. Was Cole very attentive? Probably not. But that was kind of the start of our letting him stay by himself. One thing I didn't want him to do was carry a key, but I wanted him to be able to get in, so we put a keypad entry on our front door, and that helped a lot. I mean, it's been great. Only recently was he not able to get in, and I think he just transposed the numbers. And should we change, if we were a typical household, we would be changing the combination a few times, but for Carson, I think it's important to leave it the same. So I think he just transposed numbers and he couldn't get in, so it made me start looking at other technology. And so there's some really cool things coming out now that are smart locks that you can actually, it's a keypad entry again, but from an app on my phone, I can see if the door is locked or unlocked, and I can lock it or unlock it. So if I knew that he couldn't get in, you know, the bus driver, whoever could call me, and then I could just click with a click of a button, you know, and lock it, which I think would be very cool. So I actually have a couple of those requested from our waiver, and I haven't, he's on a level 1 waiver, and I haven't heard whether they're going to be approved or not, but I think they would be very, very cool. Another thing that I have requested, and I don't know if it's going to be approved, but it's a doorbell. It's called the Ring doorbell, and they actually sell these things now at Costco and Sam's and other places. But so this Ring doorbell has a video camera in it and a motion detector, so it kind of sweeps the yard for, I don't know, 30 yards out and stuff, and has different zones, and it can see if, like, zone 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it will alert to me again on my phone, so I could be at work and I could be alerted if something weird is coming into the yard, or if there's somebody at the door, and with my other app I could lock or unlock the door, whatever. But I just think it would be a little more measure of safety for Carson being home alone. And you know, we live in a pretty safe neighborhood, but everybody lives in a safe neighborhood until something weird happens in their neighborhood, you know. So I think that would be just an added measure of safety. Another thing that I have requested from the waiver, and I don't think they're going to get this, but I think it would be really cool if they did. If anybody has any pull on that. Well, okay, so forget that. I'll talk about that in a second. I'm going to segue into with this other thing because they're kind of connected. So early on, we got these Nest, and it used to be Drop Cam, but Nest, they're under the Nest name now, but it's a motion detector, well, it's a security camera that we have in his room, because my son predominantly stays in his little man cave there and watches movies and videotape, you know, plays video games and stuff. And so with this camera, again, I have an app on my phone. Let me point back here because here's my phone, but I have an app on my phone, so I can just look and see, and I just care about the live feed. You know, you can pay for storage of up to 6 months of back data on here. I don't care about that. We don't pay for that. So $200, you get the camera, you hook it up, and that's all your cost because you're not storing any data. And so this has been great. You can talk back and forth through it, which sometimes if he's playing his movies and stuff, he doesn't hear. So, you know, like Carson, he doesn't always answer his phone. So, you know, that's a great feature if nobody's there, or I mean, if no sound's on. But the important thing is that I can check in on him. I can make sure that he got home from school. I can see if he, you know, sometimes my husband and I will go out and I'll set timers on his phone to go take a shower and this and that, and so I can kind of watch and see what's going on. And I can kind of check in on my husband too. Like last night I was at a seminar and Carson, we've been working out early, so I would like him in bed at 8:30 or so, and so I can be like, okay, good, he's in bed. Don't have to call and wake up my husband to get my son in bed. So, these have been great. And so now we actually got another one. The first one I requested with our waiver, and they hem-hawed around. I'm like, forget it, I'll just get it myself. And because sometimes I just get tired of waiting. And so I requested a second one, and they did pay for that within the last year. So we have the second one now kind of down in our kitchen. So I can see the stove, I can see the fridge, I can see him coming down the hallway when he gets home from school. So about 2:25 or so in the afternoon, I know that he'll be getting home around 2:30. I'll just put my earbuds in at work and turn on my app and kind of watch it, and so I can hear him come home and, you know, then see that everything is good. And what I like about it in the kitchen is he doesn't cook on the stove, but I can see if he were, you know, if something weird were going to happen, or with the fridge, or, you know, whatever. But I can see all that. Also, this summer, my typical son was home from college. He was actually a pretty healthy kid, and he had to take some antibiotics, so he had those on the stove, and makes me think I have not raised him to be very independent. So he's trying to get this pill bottle open, and he's in engineering, for Pete's sake, and he's trying and he's struggling, and finally he's like, oh, that's how it works. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's a college kid. But of course I couldn't tell him that I was spying on him. Because with these you can set them up so they will alert you if there's motion detected in the area. So I always know if like somebody's walking in the kitchen or whatever. And so sometimes you pay attention to it, sometimes not, but it was just funny. What's that?
What is that thing called?
It's called Nest. It's a Nest. Nest is the people that make it, and it's Nest camera. So Nest.com, you would be able to get all this stuff.
Like a bird's nest?
Yeah. But they actually sell these now. I've seen them at Target. I've seen them at Home Depot. I've seen them at Sam's. There's a lot of places that are starting to carry them now. You don't have to get them online. However, I think the cost is the same. It really doesn't matter. So with this Nest now, they've got like 3 different devices. And so the second one I think is very cool. And that's when I said that I don't think the waiver is going to get, but if they don't, I will push forward and go through the process and stuff. But so they've got these smoke alarms, these smoke detectors that you can, and they're expensive. They're about $100 each. So it is kind of expensive to put them all over your house. But so they've got their own Wi-Fi network, and it doesn't run on your Wi-Fi network. It runs on its own Wi-Fi network. So if the internet is down in your house, these will still all talk to each other. So you can have one, in the different bedrooms or whatever, have one down in the kitchen. So Carson could be in his room, and there could be some incident down in our kitchen, and this is what's really cool is that they talk, and it would say, smoke detected in the kitchen, get out of the house. And so it has this early alarm before it goes, and how cool would that be for all of our kids to verbally kind of walk them through stuff and tell them to get out of the house. And again, because it's the smart technology, I would get an alert on my phone that something occurred with that smoke detector, and so I would be able to also maybe guide Carson out, with his phone. I would be able to call our neighbor. I'd be able to call the fire department. There's a lot of things that you can do with that technology to keep him safe. And again, it's just, some people have said, well, he stays home alone. What about a fire? If this would help, there is what about a fire, and I agree that is a risk that we're taking by him being home alone, but it's also a risk that my other son would be taking with having his headphones on for the Xbox. So it's just a risk that it's part of being an adult. So we have used technology a lot to help Carson be more independent. So those are some of the things. One of the early things that we used was, he just right now has a flip phone, so we'll set timers on there for different things when he's home alone. He'll stay home all day during the summer, and I'll fix his breakfast and his lunch like I would at school. I'll put his, I'll ask him what he wants, but he wants it in the lunchbox because that's the way it should be. So I'll fix his lunch. I'll fix his breakfast and kind of leave it out on the plate, but his breakfast is pretty simple every day. 1 Pop-Tart, 1 banana, his vitamins and chocolate milk. And so I'll leave that so he puts it in the toaster and gets his milk out and this and that. But the reason I set alarms is because it's kind of evolved to that, where I didn't at first. I'm just like, well, his stomach will tell him when he's hungry, and it did. At 10 o'clock, he would go down and eat lunch, and then at 12 o'clock, he would go eat his snack that he was kind of supposed to have at 2 to kind of hold him over until we got home for dinner. And so what I have really found very helpful is setting the alarms on the phone, let him know that it's lunchtime, it's snack time, and we use them for other things too. Sometimes if we're not home in the evening, I'll set it for going to taking his shower, even going to bed, which is where the camera comes in handy sometimes too. If we're down the street or out for the evening or whatever, and his alarm goes off for 8:30 or 9 to go to bed and look. And that's usually, if we're going to have some kind of issue, that's usually it, where he's just ignores his alarm for going to bed. But if that's the worst thing that happens, it's all good. But I even have it now so the person, there's a lady in our neighborhood that cuts our hair, and she's like 3 doors down. So now I have where Carson will get home from school, and I'll set the alarm for his appointment for maybe 15 minutes early. And again, I'll set an alarm on my phone so that I can watch on the camera to make sure that he's kind of getting ready and getting down there. But he'll go and lock up the house and take his money, lock up the house, and go 3 doors down, get his hair cut, and come on back. And I know that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is a big deal for our kids to be independent like that. And so it's just a little more of independence, but I'm kind of there with a safety net. And I guess I should also add, if I didn't work maybe 10 minutes away, don't know that I might feel differently about all this stuff, but I feel like I'm still pretty close. If anything were to happen, then I'm, and we live in a pretty good neighborhood where I could call any number of people. And the other day when he couldn't get in, I did call a neighbor and had her come and do the key code on the garage, which Carson, it's a different key code and he doesn't know that one. No reason that he can't, he just doesn't. And so she did that and got him in. But again, it's just kind of helpful having that technology so that your circle of people can help you out when they need to. Let's see if I have other technology. Let's see, the doorbells. So somebody mentioned about the stove, and so they do make it, we don't have this because Carson doesn't use a stove, but this was actually a thing that was created or invented, I guess, for this man, his company. His parents, his mom kind of had dementia, and so they made a stove monitor that's out there for people with dementia, people with disabilities or whatever. But so it hooks up to your stove, and it kind of has a motion detector. It does have a motion detector connected with it. So if the stove is on and it doesn't detect any motion within a certain period of time, whatever he said, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or whatever, it will turn off the stove. And which is a great feature, you know what? And it doesn't just have to be for people with dementia or people with disabilities, because long time ago, my husband and I were scuba diving, and one of the men on our trip had all these scars on his chest. And what had happened is his wife had gone to the hospital to have a baby, and he did too, and he came home, put a can of soup on at night, when he got home, and left it on and burned down the house. Wife and baby were still in the hospital, so they were safe, but can you imagine coming home to that? Surprise, right? So anyway, it's useful for more than just our kids and our parents.
We found a new wave.
New wave?
Yeah, that's what it's called, new wave. And it will not turn on if a pan is not on it. And it shuts off after 10 minutes. That's called, it's $99. But it's, I
So
say
it's
it's
like
a
a hot
complicated, it's kind of like a complicated, it's a little complicated hot plate, but because I work in home health, I have gotten a lot of my patients have done this. They make one that's just for like stove top, and then they have a convection cooker that cooks larger food, chicken, turkey, roast, and it, again, has to be programmed, so it would be something you'd have to do step-by-step directions with, but I think once they got that, it shuts itself off.
See, and so look at technology that's out there that could really help your kids be independent and give you a sense of well-being that they're not going to be burning down the house, or they are, they do have a means to cook and things like that. So there's a lot of technology out there, having the house be smart and especially now with all the cell phones and this and that. I mean, there's just a lot of stuff out there. Carson doesn't speak much, and so we use an iPad for a communication device, and he has touch chat on there. And so we've taught him how to send text messages with that. I wish he would initiate it more, but he can send text messages from the communication device, which is nice too. So there's just a lot of capability of things out there that y'all might not have thought about. Another thing that somebody, one of my friend's sons is diabetic, has Down syndrome, he was diabetic, and this is probably about 3 or 4 years ago, and how old is he now? He's probably 23 now, but he could administer his own insulin with her not being there, and they walked through all these steps and everything. But it's just kind of a safeguard. She would like to kind of view it, so they used FaceTime when he was doing the insulin, so that he, be like, oh, that's not, I don't even know what all you do with insulin, but, just so she could check off on him and make sure that it was all being done correctly. So be creative out there. Think outside of the box on how these different things can help you and help your kids be, more independent. So how many of you out there either have guardianship or, guardianship, well, you probably know about that one. Or if you don't, who does not know about guardianship? I think everybody knows about that. Okay. How about SSI? Are most of your kids on SSI? Yes? No? Everybody? Okay.
Yeah, but I do have a question on that, and I don't know if you would have the answer, because we've applied, but we're in the first year of it, and I know you have to do the annual reporting, and I know the form you have to fill out, but I know our expenses are more than what we're getting. So when you fill out, so submit the form, is it supposed to be what the true expenses are, or should it be within the amount that they've allocated to you?
Do their true expenses,
Do their
because
true expenses.
like if they're sending you the 488, and the expenses come, you can get them. You have to kind of say, we're charging them rent and we're making them buy their own groceries. And you have, when you do your expenses, that's what you have to show, because they told me, food, clothing, shelter. That's all Social Security cares about, food, clothing, shelter.
Yeah, I'm
And
surprised
their
that-
expenses, of course, you know, they're never gonna give you more than that 733,
Right.
but that's what they wanna see,
There's
is
still
that.
that 40,
Yeah.
the first, yeah.
Yeah, and
They don't
so,
even care if they have a cell phone, or,
but you know,
Well,
they
diapers,
probably,
I asked about diapers, because he's in diapers and he will be for the rest of his life and that, well.
Medicaid should cover that though. If he's got SSI, he should have Medicaid, and Medicaid I think would cover
We
that.
don't have that yet, I need to look into that.
Okay.
So one of the things that we learned recently on Medicaid, so we were approved for SSI, when I went to do the Medicaid, our daughter just turned 18. We're still claiming her own taxes. So if she's dependent on taxes, more than likely you're not gonna be approved for Medicaid. So, because if she's a dependent on your taxes, they will look at your, it's the Maggie, they'll look at your maximum adjustment, or, you know, adjusted gross income, and if she's claiming on your taxes, they'll look at parent taxes as part of that family income.
huh,
Hmm,
they didn't for
because
us.
they did
Yeah.
it for us, and we
But-
claim her.
She had an Ohio tuition trust fund of 529,
Right.
and there's only $500 in the doggone thing. They ask us about that.
I mean, it's just been 2
Like,
weeks.
she can't get that money.
Yeah, it's just been 2 weeks at Warren County, and I went and asked them, I said, why did we get declined? She said, well, here's the family income.
Because she was 17 when we.
Oh,
No.
It wasn't? Okay.
and it wasn't that first month that she turned 18?
She turned 18 in January.
No, it was not the first month.
Okay.
Hmm.
So because we got the, you know, we're trying to stay ahead of things. We've been coming to these meetings for, you know, several years now and stuff, so we're just trying to get going. So we were denied SSI and Medicaid because we went there
Too
the
early.
day after her birthday.
Yep, I did the
You
same
know?
darn thing, because they tell you, get there on their 18th birthday.
Right.
Darn, where are we
The
down
day-
there?
The day after we
Yep.
had the appointment,
So
right?
just
So,
apply again.
right, so we applied again. And it's during this
You can
cycle. So we got
go
approved
the
for
following
SSI,
month of their birthday.
But we got denied for Medicaid. That was just 2 weeks ago that I went in person to say, why? He said, well, here's your adjusted gross income. I said, you know, do you claim her as a dependent on your taxes? I do, and there you go.
Huh.
Does she not
So-
have a waiver?
If you have a waiver, they should automatically have
She does not, she's on
Medicaid.
She's
the
on
waiting list,
Waiting
you know,
list.
but right now, we're not ready for that.
Right.
And we think it's better for the county to use those resources for someone else at this point. So,
Well, we're in
It's
that same boat.
interesting.
We're about at a year, so I have not filed
I
that
haven't filed it
form
yet.
yet. But
I'm tracking it each month, I'm an accountant, so.
Well, I'll
I've
tell you what
tracked
I'm
the numbers
thinking about
anyway,
doing
But I wanna
is-
make sure I do it right, so yeah, so that's what I thought, you know, at first I was like, well, you gotta account for every penny that you move out of their account into your account.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking, no, that's crazy, you know, because you really wanna show here's what the true expenses are, even though you may be pulling out less.
well, see, and I think Carson, by being on SSI, he should be eligible for, is it called the SNAP card, the food stamp card, which, good heavens, our family really doesn't need that. But I want him to start, you know, he uses cash all the time, but cash is really, I mean, cash is great to know, and he's great at the next dollar up and stuff, but in a real world, people swipe. So I want him to be able to swipe for food, but I don't want access to, you know, I mean, it doesn't have tons in his account because he can't, but I don't want that access to, I don't want it compromised by somebody. So if he has his SNAP card, then he can go get food with it and, you know, practice those skills of the debit card. So I haven't done that yet, but in the last week or so, I thought, you know, I should probably do that just to work on those skills. I think you get like $120 a month or something, and, you know, he could get his stuff with that.
Did you call it SNAP? SNAP?
Isn't that what it's called, SNAP?
SNAP, I think that's a, yeah.
Yeah, I think it is SNAP, but it's really not, I mean, it is food stamps, but it's not called food stamps anymore. It's got a clever little name like SNAP or something, doesn't it? I think.
Yes, is that what it is?
So I think we're gonna do that. Let's see. You know, one thing early on that we started doing, probably, I don't know how old he was, but if I would, not young, not little, he was like 14 or 15 or so, but I would leave him in the car for short periods of time while I would run into the store. And I would ask my cop friends about that. And usually I would do it in the wintertime when I could have the windows up and he would lock the door. I would not click it because I didn't want it to go beep, beep, beep if he were to get out and, and draw attention to it all and stuff. And so I asked my cop friends if I would be arrested if something, and my friend said that they intentionally keep that gray because it's really not a hard and fast rule. Some people are capable of being left in the car at 14, some people are not. Some people, I mean, if a typical kid would stay in there and play the video games. And so we would talk about stranger danger and this and that. And I never really tested it if I had some stranger come up and beat on the window and say, let me in, because we always talked about don't unlock the door for anybody except me. And it has worked out fine for us. I'm not advocating that for you guys, but it was a little step of independence, and now I feel fine leaving him in the car. He's perfectly safe. He'd much rather be in there than being dragged into a store. Sometimes I make him come with me, sometimes not. But if it's summertime and I have to have the windows down, I generally will because I just don't trust other people that much. But, just saying, it's your choice. I guess what I would say too is go to as many of these different workshops on transition as you can, because you will hear different things from different people, and you will hear some things 10 times and before it finally sinks in. Or you hear something, but this is what you really care about now, so you hear this and it's stuck in the back of your mind. You go and act on this, and then a year or two later is when you need this information. But if you just keep going to these, there's so much out there. There's so much information. And for me, I feel like, this is the time that Carson was in school, and this is all the time that he's going to be an adult. And so I want to make sure that I do this part right to make this part right. It's not like you can't recover from stuff, but I'm really trying to do this part so that this part is pretty successful. One thing that Patty has out there for as a resource is redtreehouse.org, and I don't know if anybody has ever been on this website, but Sue Bisco, who kind of runs it in our area, I guess it's statewide, isn't it?
Yes.
But there's this great search engine on there, and so you can go in there and you put your county in there and you put what you're interested in, like transition or guardianship or whatever, and it comes up with all the stuff that's applicable for the search criteria that you had. And so today I got on it and I thought, well, I'm just going to check on, I don't know what it was, guardianship or something in Warren County, but it brought up all those, those classes that you're supposed to take now as a guardian, and so it had those and links to where you can do the online version of that and this and that. So there's just, I would really advocate, Sue always kind of sits back in a corner and is kind of there with the information, but this is a really good website with a lot of good information on there. So all your transition stuff, your SSI questions, things like that, I bet you would be able to find them on here. Some things that people don't know with our kids is because they have a disability that they are eligible for the Golden Buckeye card. I didn't know they could do it before they were age eligible, but they can. Also, there's a Golden Access card, which is the national park card, and so they can get into all national parks for free.
Go back to the Golden Buckeye.
The Golden Buckeye card. So the Golden Buckeye card is kind of like a card that you can get for the state, and some restaurants honor it where they'll give maybe a 10% discount, or they'll give you a free drink, or free donut, or it's a little something. It's completely up to that restaurant or whatever. It might be stores or whatever, but to that place.
And
to do
the
it.
other one for the parks.
The other one is with the National Park Service.
Yeah, and that is nice because it's not just for them,
Right,
it's
it's
the whole family.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the Golden Access, it used to be called the Golden Access Pass, but it's with the National Park Service, so you could probably go to, I would just do a Google on national parks, but probably it's like nationalparksnp.gov or something like that, but, so they can get this card. You have to go to a federal site. The Taft House in Cincinnati is one of them, but you go with a doctor's whatever, doctor's script or something saying that they have a permanent disability.
In some places, we were actually on vacation with my son, and we were in Virginia, and it was mentioned to us that right there, as we were going through, that you could get this, and they did not require us to have a doctor's note or anything. So I think wherever you go, there could be some differences, but where we were at, just off of it, did you know he's eligible for this, and it's for the whole family, and they signed us up right
We've had it for a long time. It gets you access into the park for free, and so sometimes with the camping facilities, a lot of them are contracted out with other companies through the National Park Service, so sometimes you can get half off of those, sometimes not. It kind of depends, but for sure you get free access to the national parks, and yeah, maybe that's just it. So I would encourage you.
I was gonna say also that with your Golden Meal Guide, you can get into the state parks for percentage off.
Good. Get out there and enjoy the outdoors with your kiddos. A bus pass, you know, this Warren County Transit, you can call them and get a disability card, and it's a cheaper rate that they pay.
It's $3.
So,
And then you don't, instead of paying $6, you only have to pay $3.
right.
And I know some of the schools, that's how we got it. In schools, they sometimes use that for trips for this class.
So I want to tell you also about a couple of things that we've kind of learned along the way. That it just shows me that we have a lot of work to do still. Obviously, you know, this never stops, but a couple of years ago, we were at this one place, and I had Carson read the directions on a Stouffer's box, and he has very bad vision, so I was just having him read it to see if he could read it to see it. But so he's reading the directions, and he's, you know, reading out loud, and he's like, put it in the microwave or whatever so it was 5.5 to 6 minutes, right? And so he's looking at it, and he's like, 51 to 26. So you can see, you know, 5.5, so where you got the 51 and the 26, I completely get that. But my point is that if he put a microwave dinner into the microwave for 51 minutes, it would be a complete disaster, right? And those smoke alarms would be going off. There's smoke in the kitchen, right? So it made me realize that, you know, there's one more thing we have to work on. Although, if he were truly living on his own, I probably would write 5.30 to 6.
Some of the meals have gone to that little picture at the bottom of the meals where it has the digital.
Right, and you're right, they probably, a lot of them do, and I've done them. And then the other thing was that, so we went into Kroger's, and I thought, all right, he should be able to go get his chocolate milk. He really likes chocolate milk. I'll go get the fruit. I'll see how he does to go get his chocolate milk. And so I gave him, I did give him money. I gave him like $2 or $3 to go get a half gallon of chocolate milk while I was getting the fruit. And I said, we'll meet back up here at the front at the Starbucks tables. So I get the fruit, and I come back up, and he's sitting there with a Starbucks cup of chocolate milk, which it's like, okay, it's pretty close, but you know what? If you live on Starbucks chocolate milk, your money is not going to go very far. Snap card or no snap card, you know. So, you know, those are just little things. I'm like, all right, well, it's close. We couldn't quite have it. So, that summer I didn't quite follow through with all of it, but my idea was that I would be able to just give him like $3. I would wait in the car this time and say, go get a gallon of chocolate milk. And so we're still working towards that. But I guess I should probably wrap it up to have other people speak. But there's a lot of books out there. You know, like here's one for Down syndrome, the transition handbook. This one, I was just at a meeting last night down at the Down Syndrome Association, and there was a lady there from the Housing Authority. And she was referring to this book that has a lot of good information. So when you get to that point of transitioning for your child moving out, this moving out book has a lot of good information in there. The author of this one is Daphna, D-A-F-N-A, Krouk-Gordon, or Barbara D. Jackson, Jackins. So that's a good one. And then this Down syndrome transition handbook is by Joanne Simons, S-I-M-O-N-S. So they just have, you know, just some good information in there, things that you might not think about on transitioning. I know that different things that I've gone to, we don't have Carson do near enough chores that would dovetail into jobs that he could have. So we're starting to have him do more, wash the dishes and things like that. I think that's about all I have on, oh, this is very important. So the ABLE Act, how many of you have heard about the ABLE Act? So the ABLE Act is very important for our kids. If they're diagnosed below or earlier than the age of 26, then they're eligible for this ABLE account. And so kind of on the same guidelines as the 529 plans, it's kind of under the same framework. So there's this ABLE account. They can put, or anybody can put up to $14,000 a year into the ABLE account. It can grow up to, I think, $400,000, although at $100,000, they will lose their SSI and Medicaid money. They won't lose their eligibility. They'll just have to spin down, and then they can pick up their eligibility again, which that's kind of important to not you lose the eligibility. They just will lose the benefits for the time being. So with the SSI, what I'm so this is my long-term goal for Carson, is for him to be out on his own in his mid-20s. So he's been getting SSI for about a year. He's been paying us rent of $500. So I've just been taking that and putting it into my account. And so I've just got this rent account. So my thought is that after several years that I can use that on a down payment for a condo or something for him as an option if that is the living arrangement that we feel is best for him at the time, or for a few buddies or whatever. But also with the ABLE account, we can dump $14,000 in. Well, we can't every year because that's quite a bit of money. But but you could put, or you could have, if people are giving them money for graduation or whatever, that's a nice avenue. So that after 4 or 5 years, you could have a pretty good chunk in there for a down payment of a house or a condo or something like that. So I still haven't, because we're not there, I haven't explored enough as to whether that would be better to be in a trust, or would he could own it and he could still get SSI. You can have a car and you can have a house. I just don't know if that would be the best thing for him. I know that we can't own it, and how did that go? We can't own it and he can't pay us rent on it or something like that. But so siblings, grandparents, and parents can't own it and have them pay you rent, but cousins and other relatives can. Or what I thought too is maybe he could get if we had enough of a down payment, then he could get a loan and it would be kind of under that $500, so he could just make monthly payments. So, there's just different ideas out there. We're not at that point yet, but it's nice to have a plan so that you can work towards that.
Where have you gotten all your ABLE account information?
There actually is a website that I don't know off the top of my head. Actually, the Down Syndrome Association has been pretty instrumental in going and getting it advocating for it in DC. A few years ago I went up there with them, so I'm on different Facebook pages of them doing it. But I will say that the very first ABLE account that was opened was last week here in Ohio. So I have to check if they've got it up and running here in Ohio. It should be within the next month or two if they don't.
I had shared on the Facebook when it started, there's an ABLE, like in my likes.
Okay.
There's an ABLE, I had put an ABLE act thing out there, the ABLE sort of a little, a video that some guy had done.
Yeah.
And I think the link was also in that. And
There's
then
a link for the state of Ohio that it has the most up-to-date information. So Patty probably has that out there.
And then there's also, I'll be sending out the first of the month, our quick reference resource sheet. I have a section in there that has a whole bunch of ABLE Act links. I try to keep that up to date, like I'll add stuff that we're getting from the panel, like this month I'll add to that sheet too. So that'll be coming out the 1st of May. And anything's discussed, I'm gonna try to put in an email that I can feed back to everybody too about like the parent panels, like all these helpful links, and I want to get the books and I'll
picture of them and put them there.
Yeah, so I can email them out too, so I have all the right for the titles and the authors. But I'll try to get all that together so you guys have that. As long as I have your email, you'll get the email of it. Otherwise, look it up on Facebook too.
Well, I'll tell you, there was a self-advocate that went and advocated for the ABLE account when I was up in DC doing it too. And, she said something that kind of just really hit home. So, we push and push and push for our kids to be independent until they move out of the house, and then they have to be completely dependent because they can only have $1,500 to $2,000 in their account, depending if it was Medicaid or SSI. So this young lady with Down syndrome lived on her own in a house. The furnace broke. She had to borrow the money to fix the furnace from her parents because she couldn't even accrue enough money to pay for the furnace to be fixed because she couldn't have more than $1,500. That's ridiculous. So this ABLE account will certainly help with the independence of our kids. So it's a great resource that, like I said, if it's not out there right now within the next couple months, access it for your kids. It will be huge for them.
I'm really excited about the cell phone and all the alarms and everything like that. We're gonna start using that with our developing son.
I keep trying for using it with my typically developing son because I use it all the time. I'll set alarms for this and that and, or the notes or whatever. Can't always get him to do it.
Yesterday was a great example.
He's
Now,
40.
my daughter is afraid to use the oven, a lot afraid to use the oven, and I said, I think you can do this. I needed a little, pre-found turkey breast, one of the pre-formed things cut. And she said, well, Mom, I don't know. And I said, get your phone out and get into the memos and listen. Now, I had to talk really slow and I had to spell some stuff. But I'm like, do this first, then do this, then do this, then do this. And she's, we're in the car, so she's typing because she's not driving. And she was so funny. She spelled it wrong, mind you. But she got home and she did everything exactly the way I had told her. She got her little phone out and followed the directions on the memo. And on Facebook, she put, I cook a turkey. N-E-I-L, it. I'm like, I knew she meant nailed it. And I thought, there's technology because I didn't have a piece of paper and a pencil. I didn't have time to write it down on a piece of paper but I said this is a perfect example of today's technology where I could tell her, or a lot of times, especially for her, she'll put on her Google Speak and speak into her phone because she can't spell, and it'll spell it for her. So I like that, and we've talked about that for OU, and when we were down there, the lady said there's actually a pen, and I forget what you called it, that records the professor. So if they're taking notes in a classroom situation, and they miss what the professor says, the pen is catching it, and they can go back and they can replay. It's like a mini tape recorder, and they can replay it. They can also plug it into their computer, and it'll spit back everything the professor said. And I thought, love it, because her handwriting looks like chicken scratch.
There's a lot of very cool technology, or she had good speech. She could actually speak in and
it's called
and stuff.
Audio memos too.
Right, audio memos.
But I know that they introduced it when she was at Centerville, and I wish I could remember the name of it. But now some people will talk about Dragon, and I said, for our kids it might be okay that Dragon Speak might be a good thing. Part of it is that if they don't have good grammar and don't speak succinctly, it'll be one big run-on sentence. You have to add the capitals and the periods and the commas and all of that. So if that's, if you're not a very clear speaker, Dragon doesn't work as well. To be able to speak very clearly, or it'll all come out jumbled.
So does anybody have any questions? Just go out there, research technology. It's always changing, and it's been such a great boon for our kids to help them be independent. I'm waiting for the Google car so that he can go around. I will tell you, in about 10 years, I can be able to happen in the next 10 years. I know it. Saving a lot of people out there.
Well, that's great information. We have one more speaker. We have Kayla. Kayla Wright, she's going to speak about independent living for us, and with her is Alyssa Hartley. But Kayla's going to speak about her journey towards the independent living. So, go ahead.
My 5 fun facts is I'm a big sports fan. I love sports. I'm a UK fan, Michigan fan, Patriots fan. I love country music. I love all kinds of music, but country's my favorite. My favorite artist is Luke Bryan and Florida Georgia Line. My favorite color is blue. As you can tell, I wear blue more than anything else. I started working when I was 16 years old. My first job was the Banta Center. I started July 7, 2010. I was a secretary. I was the type of person that answered the phone too. I worked with the bid bosses, which is, the Banta Center is right over there by Sipsy Klein behind that building. Then my second job was actually Kings Island, the stock crew, which is Jeff and Gwen Banel's crew. I worked there in the summer of 2011, from June until August 10th. And then after that, I went back to my Banta Center. And then 2012, I got hired on for merchandise, which I'm a cashier. And then my senior year, I worked at TJ Maxx for transitions, which I worked on Mondays and Wednesdays, 2 hours a day. I really enjoyed that. And then my job that I have now is Walmart. I work at Developmental Walmart. I'm a cashier. I've been there for 2 years. I love it, but it does get overwhelming a lot. I started working at Walmart in 2014. I got hired on March 10th. How I got the job was, well, I kind of graduated high school in 2013, so I finished Kings Island in October 27th, and it gave me 4 months to find a job. And I found the job that I like, and I love it. And I do have drop-in services. My PC, which is a program coordinator, comes in once a month to see how I'm doing, see what I've been doing, check in with my bosses, my supervisors, my employees. I actually was taught younger as I was taught by my job coaches. So my job coaches taught me a lot, and I grew onto them as much as they learned to me. All my jobs have done such an amazing job. I've become independent. I want to officially go to college here in a few years, but I want to save up the money to go to college. I'm excited about that. This past May 2015, I got an apartment. I got an apartment May 13th, 2015. I live independently. I do have drop-in services, so I have providers come in Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays on my off days. They help me cook, clean. I'm pretty well on independent, like laundry and doing hygiene stuff. That's what I do well. The reason why I moved out was I lived with my grandparents since I was 3 years old in South Lebanon. My grandma decided way back in 2013 that she thought it was best for me to move out. But I was going to live in a group home, and I decided not to because I want to be independent. I want to go out and show the community of what I can do and what I can't do. And I want them to understand that if you're wanting to move out, go for it. Yes, there will be hard points in life that you have to struggle with, but it teaches you to be grown up. And I am a grown up person, and I love it. I've gone so far from the time I started transitions when I was 14 to I'm 22 now. I've grown up and I've learned so much over the years. And I am also learning how to drive here in a couple weeks. I'm willing to drive. I'm going to be 22 years old. I want to do something. I'm excited about it, but nervous at the same time. And eventually, I hope college is the next step for me. I just want to say thank you for inviting me tonight for this speech. This is my third speech within the past 7 weeks. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys got lots of information for tonight, and just remember that there are people out here that can help you and help your kids with information that you want to give and what you don't want to understand. Does anybody have any questions for me?
How do you get to your job then?
I have providers, it's called RCC, they have transportation, it's Tony Mitchell's company. They pick me up and take me to work. They actually do a pretty good job. I mean, they get me there on time, they don't waylate it, so I enjoy it.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, that you can't use your waiver dollars for transportation to get to a job until you're actually into the adult services, so while our kids are still under the high school
That
umbrella.
might be changing a little bit.
Yeah, after our kids are old enough.
That would be wonderful.
Somebody save us.
Yeah.
Because I will
That is
say that
typically
that
the case,
is
yeah.
one of the
Yeah,
issues
they're in
that we
high
have.
school,
They
they are
don't-
not allowed to use the waiver services for transportation. Yep.
They want them to get a job, they want them to go to work when they're 16. The state of Ohio wants them to have
They
a
want
job.
employment
them to-
first, this whole
yes,
initiative, and
Which
they
is
want
really
them-
great, I mean, I have to say, but you have to take them to and from. So it is, like this summer, we're still waiting to hear a little bit about, even if she doesn't work for KI, she's gonna be working at McDonald's over the summer. Right now, I mean, we live within walking distance. She could safely walk to and from McDonald's from where we live. It's about 2 miles and it won't kill her. It might actually make her a little more healthy. But having said that, if we lived any further, UTS is $20 a trip. And, we can't always be home at the time that she needs to get to and from work.
I have a question for you. So, what is your apartment like? Is it a one bedroom, or do you live by yourself?
It's 2 bedrooms.
And do you have a roommate?
As of right now, I do not have a roommate. She moved out 2 months ago. It is more relaxing without a roommate, but
But do you get lonely?
do I get lonely? Yes, I do. I do get very lonely at night, but I have people around there that I entertain myself with. An older gentleman and 2 girls. It's like a community that we live in. It's down the street. But it is relaxing, and I do know that I'm safe because the people that are next door to us has 24-hour staff, which they're there 24/7, no matter what. So I do get drop-in services, but only during the day. But at night, I can go and come as I please.
So is your apartment in a complex that's all for all people with disabilities?
Yes,
or-
there is 8. There's 2 apartments for each slot. I live in by myself, and then my friends are by themselves. But it is I love it. It's 2 bedrooms. It has a garage. It has a kitchen, a small bathroom, but it's big enough for 2 people. And it is through CHAP.
So it's the housing that works with Warren County that buys apartments.
Yeah, so this is my understanding, and I know just enough to not know enough, but CHAP, I guess Warren County Department of DD cannot own houses, so CHAP can own the houses, but then DODD provides the services. Does that sound right? Okay, sure, I don't know. Like with the waiver dollars or whatever, people would get services through DODD to provide the services, but CHAP actually owns the house. But this is something that I recently learned, is that, so there's Section 8 housing, but there's also a thing called a Section 8 voucher. It's a choice voucher, I think, housing choice or something, choice housing. So each county gets these Section 8 vouchers. And so that voucher, you can actually get to go to someplace else to rent. It doesn't have to be the location per se. Like if you find a typical apartment complex that would take the voucher, and then they would be guaranteed payment and this and that, then you have a few more options. Now there was a lady at a seminar that I went to last night down in Hamilton County that got a voucher for her son. They were so excited. But she couldn't find any places that she felt were safe and that were close enough. Now this is Hamilton County, Cincinnati, so she could find places way on the west side of town, but she lived in Sims Township, so she couldn't really find things on the east side of town that were safe, that were within the price range, that would take the voucher and this and that. So it sounds like a really great thing, but there again, you run up to these brick walls that just, but anyway, there's a lot of different housing options out there. So when you get to that point with your child, keep going to these seminars, because there's words that I don't even know, that they could live in a small setting, not so much a group home, because the Ohio is still, doing away with so-called group homes where you couldn't, there's different ratios. You can't have 10 people with a disability in a house, or, I don't know what their ratios are, but it's changing so that you get away from that group home setting, and so people are more included in the communities and things like that. So, and I guess one thing, when you mentioned the exercising, so I forgot to mention one thing that we've been doing with Carson is since January. One thing that I haven't been able to do, and not as you can tell from looking at it, but to work out in the mornings, I haven't been able to do that for a long time because of when his bus would come for school. And so this year I thought, you know what? He could just go to the community center. My husband could drop him off at the community center. I could work out. Carson could eat breakfast. And then when I'm done working out and showering, I could get him and get him to school. And then I thought, you know what? Why doesn't he just come exercise with me? So 5 o'clock, we'd get up, 5:30, we're out the door. He does spinning Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and we do body pump on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, and then he leaves class a little bit early, goes and eats breakfast. I go shower real quick and come back and finish up and get him to school next door, and it's been working out great. But I guess my point is baby steps. Don't expect our kids to just be independent overnight, because it sometimes takes them a little while to get really, from A to B. Really where you want them to go.
I was wondering though if you guys have any links or any information on assisted living for disabled that are totally dependent children.
Patty?
I'll have to look that one up and
I'll tell you what to look at. That I didn't know this place even existed until last night. Is I guess every county has a thing called the Housing Authority. Is that right, Jerry? So the Housing Authority. So get on there and kind of Google it for Warren County Housing Authority, because they're the ones who issue these Section 8 vouchers and have the Section 8 housing that might be affordable for our kids. But it would probably then, if your daughter would get an IO waiver, is what she would probably need.
what was she saying about the 24/7 people that were next door to you?
Well, what they do is they stay all night. So there's 3 or 4 different staff that's there. They have a house manager staff, and they have 3 staff below them, which means that let's say if your kid has behavioral issues or needs staff overnight, that's when they will pull a staff member to stay with you all night. Or if you don't trust your kid or individuals of what you want to do, like for instance me, I'm independent and I don't need 24 hours care. I'm all by myself. But some places are different. Like I know group homes have 24 hours care, and then some just 2 people and the roommates have staff by their 24-hour staff. But it depends on what your SSA wants or your waiver wants on what's best for your student or your kid.
What also depends on the level of care, depending on what staffing they will have.
Well, what seems to be popular here in Warren County, and probably other counties too, is like CHAP would own a home, probably a 3 or 4 bedroom home, I would guess, and there would be 3 people with disabilities living in there, and then maybe 1 caregiver that may be 24 hours or may not, depending on the level of care for those 3 people. But what I've also learned along the way is that it's best if those 3 people have the same type of waiver, so that I guess it just makes things simpler, but they can share services. So this one caregiver doesn't have to be, it's not one-on-one for everybody, but different people, like one person might just need help getting up in the morning and getting dressed and getting out the door and this and that. And another person might need a lot more care, and then another person, maybe just have dinner made for them or whatever. So it would be a coordination of efforts between that one caregiver or maybe other ones that pop in and out. But I would bet that for your daughter, right, that she wouldn't live by herself, that she would she would have roommates, perhaps.
Let me know if you're looking, because mine's not 24 work too, so I'm wondering too, the same question. Where do you put a child that needs 24-hour care and somebody constantly there to do things for them? And that's, I still have a question, seeing how that picture comes down to anything.
I think some of the seminars this past year, I mean, we're winding up now, right? But some of the seminars this past year, one of them didn't talk about housing and stuff, chat was mentioned.
The other
And
thing
that-
too is-
And you're correct, your observation, they basically will have like maybe a 2 or 3 person house.
Right.
And it'll be, maybe 3 shifts. The caregiver will have 3 people in their 8-hour shifts, right? And they do try and match up,
Just make sure you're really thoroughly interviewing your care providers.
And the
That's why I
roommates.
was wondering if there was more than just chats, and other agencies out
I think on the board of Dee Dee's site, there is a list of providers in the area. And I know they just had a provider fair, so it's probably best at times to call that individual provider and say, some of the providers actually have homes.
Yeah, like
That
my
are
friend wants to turn
set
her
up.
mom into, for
Right.
them to live there.
Right.
Provide a couple roommates, have staff, and you can actually turn your home
Right.
into one of these.
So, just kind of be looking at those different, and interview the provider and say, what services do you provide? And go to the home and look at the home, look at what they provide as far as that, because they're out there and they are generally 2 to 3 people in the home with 24, hour a day care in one form or another. Some of the students or some of the individuals actually can't go out to the day provided services, but if they are actually not able to go out to the day provided services, someone is in the home.
So I will say this too, the things that I've learned about housing, there's a lot of adults with disabilities out there that need housing. So there's a lot of different models out there that are, people are getting creative, different ways. So it might be that, you buy a condo and then your daughter lives there and maybe has another roommate or 2, and then, and a caregiver, it might be that she's a roommate of somebody, with some kind of private house. There's just a lot of different models that are out there now for housing, because people are having to get creative because there's not enough housing for everybody.
Gail, I'd be curious, what is the most, being on your own, what was the most challenging thing you found? What was the hardest thing you came across being on your own?
Keeping up with things, like keeping up with your cleaning, your chores. Like I have a chore that I have to follow every week. So like Tuesdays are my cleaning day, official. So I have to clean once a week, and then I go grocery shopping. But probably the hardest is keeping up with what needs to be done in the house. Like the floors need mop every other day, it seems like. It is very difficult whatsoever. But
I agree with you there.
Somebody last night at the meeting was saying that a self-advocate, that they needed staff for cooking, cleaning, and grocery shopping. I'm like, who wouldn't love that? What else was I going to say about that? I can't remember. There was something along those lines, Ellen.
And I need help on cooking, so basically that's the biggest goal that I need to work on, is like I'm good with the microwave but not the stove. That's just a struggle that I have, and I've had it for so long. It's not that I want to cook, it's just the ingredients and all that's on the list is very hard for me to connect.
So I do think that some of our kids would qualify for things like Meals on Wheels and things like that. So don't just think that some of these services are out there just for people, the elderly, that they're out there for our kids too. And so that would be an avenue. One thing that I'm kind of thinking in the future, how you got the Kroger thing now where you kind of just put your order in and it's all ready. Wouldn't that be great for our kids? Or, Amazon has a pantry deal where you can order a box and it's delivered. So there's a lot of things out there now where I think it's probably moving towards more and more services and groceries being delivered. So you know, just keep these things on the radar, because these could be very useful for our kids. You know, grocery shopping could be a social thing, but, you know, it could take one more task away from them that then they could spend time on another task or having fun or something, you know.
Can you guys share your experience on the waiver? You just got approved for waiver, and I'm just trying to get a sense of, well, what is that process and how does it work if you need some service? Can you
Okay.
share a little bit?
I can't share a lot on the services because we don't use them enough, but I will say, like, I was just thinking when you guys were talking, so the remote monitoring is covered. So, you know, these kind of things are considered remote monitoring. So if you go to put a request in, what I would recommend is go out to Warren County DOTD's website or the Ohio website or whatever and get the level 1 handbook, or Idaho handbook, whichever one. But use the verbiage that's in the handbook for the request that you're making. You'll be more likely to get it. The services, you know, for the level 1 waiver, you're talking about maybe 5 or 6 hours a week, and I haven't been real successful. I haven't tried really, really, really hard. One summer we had somebody from an agency come and spend a week with Carson, at least during the day, at Boy Scout camp, and he's been going away to camps for a while, but he would kind of be his aide at Boy Scout camp. But, you know, there's a certain trust and letting go that you have to do. Like, I felt that if I had gone to the Boy Scout camp, he probably could have done different things on merit badges because I would have known to push him, you know, like all of us do with our kids. And so there's a certain bit of letting go of, is this good enough to have somebody else do it? So there's this and that. Because Carson doesn't utilize his waiver that much, I just put in to be a Medicaid waiver provider, the application, and so that's kind of in the process now, because I thought if I'm gonna be driving, now that he's over 18, if I'm gonna be driving him around and, you know, taking him to the restaurants and working on money skills and this and that, there's more money that I can put into his, you know, down payment house fund. What's that?
If you're their parent, that.
If they're over 18. And I didn't do it for a while because I didn't know if you could be their guardian. You know, he's over 18. I didn't know if I could be his legal guardian and a Medicaid waiver provider, but apparently you can, so there you go.
So are you taking the classes that they're having here?
I did take it, yeah. So, something to think about. You know, it's not for everybody, but if you have a waiver and you're not using it that much, that might be a way to be using it.
I guess we need to wrap it up, and thank you guys. I think we got great information. I appreciate all you guys coming out and sharing all that. And again, anything that you guys shared tonight, if you could, you know, if you have a link or books or anything, just, you know, you can email it to me and then I'll send them out. Out there's so many classes. If we try to cover here in the SALT, next year we're getting the lineup. Waivers is going to be one of the subjects next year. But we're trying to get next year all lined up for our courses. But there is so many. That's when I started the Facebook site, just trying to tap into everything from Cincinnati to just all through the state. There's so many opportunities to learn about. You know, there's a group that's talking about Social Security. There's a course coming up, and I shared that on. Because I was finding that when I was sending out emails, I still send out all the emails too. But the Facebook is a quick look for those who want to reference it, maybe can't find the email, or maybe someone who's not on the email that you know and you want to share it. So, I mean, there's so many opportunities out there right now, classes going on everywhere. It's the SALT, S-A-L-T, and it's the School to Adult Life Transition, and it's for Montgomery, Greene, and Warren counties.
Patty, can we, as members of that closed group, put stuff up there too, or just you?
On SALT?
On the Facebook?
You can, I think you'd have to, you can, I don't think you can share it to mine, I'm not sure.
Okay, I don't know.
I'll
have to
then
try
let
it.
me know. If I see it, I can get it out there, but you can try seeing if it'll post for you.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
still
I'll
learning
try
about it. So, anyway, but yeah. But anyway, thank you for coming tonight. Don't forget, next month is our workshop. We're going to be putting together, like we had the Social Security, we have a hard copy of the presentation with Social Security, and we had last month was how employment impacts your benefits, and we have a lot of hard copies of the presentations and a lot of information that we're going to be sharing kind of tying up the overview of the whole year for SALT. So please come out, and also I'll be requesting like an RSVP if possible, so I know how many binders to have available. So anyway, if you have any questions, go ahead. You can email me any further questions, and I'll forward it on to any of the panelists if there's anything specific you think of, or send me a question. I'll try to find an answer for you if there's anything particular that stands out in your mind from tonight or in general with transition.
My biggest advice is to keep going to these different transition meetings, because you hear something different every time, and a lot of times it's parent stories that give you ideas for different things too.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.